Hey, what's up? Today is January 28th, 2026. Um, I've thought a lot about what I was talking about yesterday, and I guess I wanted to speak more generally about just the connections that I've tried to make in the past that have seemingly fallen apart each and every time. And, it's been tough, it's been difficult trying to, cultivate meaningful, long-lasting connections. I'll be on good terms with someone, we're having, decent conversations. We open up to each other. I think that this is a friendship. And then suddenly, somewhere along the way, they turn cold and distant. It becomes apparent that they don't want to associate with me, that they're not interested in speaking to me any longer. They start treating me differently, giving me the cold shoulder, not giving me any eye contact, turned away, dry responses. They leave me on read. I try to be respectful, I try to take the hint, but it leaves me feeling confused each and every time, and it's difficult to process because it makes me feel like I did something wrong. And I've been deprived of meaningful connections for most of my life. I didn't exactly have a normal upbringing. I isolated myself. And, I'm still in this predicament at 26, going on 27. But to have this continue happening time and time again, where I click with someone, I fool myself into believing that it's something genuine, that it's a friendship. And it just falls apart for one reason or another. In the past, it was mostly due to my own ineptitude socially. I've talked about some of the experiences that I've been through in the past. I haven't gone into detail about it. There's not much to say. It's just, I would be invited out somewhere and I just ended up falling flat on my face socially, making a fool out of myself, making the people around me uncomfortable because I just wasn't saying enough. I was too quiet. And when I would say something, it just wouldn't register correctly, and it wouldn't, it just wouldn't go over well. And I just didn't know how to handle myself. I didn't know what was appropriate and what wasn't. And I guess I socially stunted myself after years of isolation. I would say nowadays I've improved somewhat, I think. I can carry myself better, I can hold a basic conversation. I'm no longer held back by anxiety as much as I was in the past. My anxiety used to be really bad. When I would get nervous, I'd start shaking uncontrollably, my heart would race, I'd tremble over my words. My voice becomes frail and shrill sounding. I have this intense look on my face the entire time. It was bad. It was really bad. But nowadays, it's at a manageable level for the most part. And I can't tell you when it started. Like when I started having anxiety, I think it just was mostly induced by those years of isolation. When I isolated myself at a young age, I lost the friends I made in elementary school, and we moved to a different area, me and my parents, and it was tough for me to fit in and to make new friends. And so I just began isolating myself further and further. And by the time I reached like grade 11, grade 12, I had like really nobody I was talking to. And after I graduated, I was totally cut off from the rest of the world for a number of years. And it wasn't until around 21 that I got my first few jobs. And once I started working at my current job, I left for a little bit. I was unemployed and I came back. But that's when I really began interacting with people more. But I was very socially inexperienced, and I didn't know how to carry myself. And those connections that I had in the past weren't exactly genuine. They weren't built on shared ground, common interests. I was trying to play a role and go out of my way to do favors for them to win them over. I was essentially buying friendships. And yeah, it comes as no surprise that those connections never lasted. But in recent years, when I do click with somebody and I try to turn it into something more, cultivate a friendship, it never lasts. And it sucks. I can't help but think I'm the problem. I'm the common denominator. Perhaps it's the way I carry myself. It's my voice. I have a really tough time projecting my voice and speaking up. And I tend to mumble a lot when I'm around people. And I have to work on that. I have to. And it's my personality, It's my lack of social skills. It's my face. Maybe I am ugly. I don't know. I'm tired of second guessing everything I do or say just to be accepted. And I don't know. For once, I just want someone who will accept me for who I am, who will choose me. But I haven't found that yet.